The oval community reigns supreme in North America. After all, it is the home of NASCAR. Super speedways like Daytona and Talladega are some of the most well-known, but it's not all about the 200-mile-an-hour plus speeds. Sometimes it's that good old-fashioned short track racing that makes fans and drivers go nuts. Today might resemble more sprint car than NASCAR, but get ready because it's time we go short track racing at Bristol, baby. It's round 6 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joey Atterbury, and with me in the booth today is Ozzy Puhaka. Behind the scenes is our director, Daniel Costello, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. For those of you that don't follow NASCAR, Bristol is known as the last great coliseum capable of seating nearly 150,000 fans. Let's get a quick rundown with our track guide.
Welcome to Bristol, the last coliseum, Thunder Valley, the world's fastest half mile. A driver once described racing here as flying a fighter jet in a high school gymnasium. And after a few laps in the seat, you certainly grasp just what they were talking about. Just over half mile in distance means that Bristol is one of the shortest tracks that the premier cars on the surface race on. But the 30 degrees of banking in the corners is greater than every track out there except Daytona and Talladega. Using the same technique that other tracks around the country have used, back in 2007, Bristol went to a progressive banking model in the corners. 24 degrees of banking at the bottom lane of the track with 30 degrees up there scraping against the fence. Bristol is also one of the last Premier Series tracks to have 2 separate pit roads. Each straightaway is just over 800 feet long, so you don't get a lot of time to react in the seat, especially considering the fact that you sail up into the corners at 130 miles an hour. Bristol always keeps drivers on edge. Some drivers even claim that they lose orientation while driving here because the front stretch and the back stretch are so similar to each other. In racing, they say in order to finish first, you must first finish. I don't know if they were thinking about Bristol when they came up with that expression, but by golly does it fit here. All in all, drivers, fans, and even commentators alike all love the Bristol Motor Speedway. This has been our guide to Bristol Motor Speedway. Now strap in and enjoy.
This is going to be an interesting one. We certainly didn't see any open wheelers on that track guide, but we're here at Bristol, Ozzy.
Yeah, what a place to be. You can see it right there, 30-degree banking, as was mentioned in the track guide, and you mentioned it too, the last great Colosseum. It's known as also the birthplace of country music. Interestingly enough, Bristol, Tennessee. Well, we're here with cars that are, frankly, from the heyday of country music, from 1967. We're with Formula One cars, and I have no idea what's going to happen here, I'll be honest with you. First time for everything, I guess.
It's going to be extremely fun, and yeah, that 30 degrees of banking is going to be fun to watch. And we are about halfway through the points championship currently. We've got both the Formula 1 and Formula 2 points, and right now in the F1 driver standings, it is Jorge Nieva leading the way, 235 points total to his name, but only 9 points back is Seb Tixier. Xavier Sanchez doing well as well inside the top 3. Nicola Kaki has been doing extremely well, having those consistent results, only a handful of points behind that 3rd place. Togo Hasada a little bit further back than what we'd expect to see him, especially given that we've had a handful of rounds already. Steve Morris, Connor Tolman, Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado, David Rossi, and Matthew Maudsley round out that top 10 in the F1 standings, but we also have the F2, Ozzy.
Yep, and it's Kurt Clapper leading the way, 15 points ahead of Chance Steven, Jonathan Jordan in 3rd position, and Thomas Willerhausen in 4th. John Van Dorn 5th, Roberto Pangrassi in 6th, tennis Thomas Tuba, Alan Graham, Jem Matson, and Andres Bruno rounding out the top 10 in F2 Championship.
Then we also have the Cup of Nations right now. Spain leading that. 20 points back is Singapore. 37 points back is the UK. United States also sitting there inside the top 5 with Italy rounding out that 5th place position. I'm expecting to see Japan jump up a few here. That's sitting back there in 7th. There's got a handful of drivers in the race today. But speaking of today, Ozzy, what are we in for?
Well, we're in for 135 laps of racing, and if somebody's thinking this is an endurance race, not a chance. It's only about 20-second laps here. Open setups, so you can adjust the cars to your liking, and no spare car. You wreck it, you buy it. Drive-through penalty at 17 incidents, disqualification at 25 incidents. End of the race, probably at the first incident.
Yes, I have a feeling that if you get into the wall here with the speeds and everything, it's going to end your day pretty quickly. And something odd that we're going to see is a rolling start on this starting grid. Jonathan Jourdain, your pole sitter in that number 2 car. Going to be interesting to see that pink car all the way up front. Shinsuke Tashima sitting on the outside of the front row. Togo Hisada in 3rd place with Jorge Nieva in 4th. Yoshiharu Hashimoto in 5th. Bill Tyler in 6th. Javier Mascara starting 7th with Kurt Clapper next to him in 8th. Connor Tolman with a nice top 10 starting position in 9th. And Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado rounding out your top 10.
Unusual starting grid here. We're starting to see familiar names in the next page. Jack David Spick at 11th and John Ulsson 12th, ahead of Matthew Maudsley and Shady Ahmad. David Grossi 15th, Ellis Spice 16th. Then it's Ito Takuma, Michael Flaherty, Chance Steven, and Tobias Henry in 20th position.
And 21st, I know that we've got a handful of cars more. It's Gary Ho, Paul Rivet, Robert Plumley, LeBreton, Van Dorn, and Steve Morris are going to be the 26. I do see Roberto Pengrazi out there in terms of in the session, but just going to have to be patient, see if he starts from pit road. I don't blame him, honestly, with the short track nature. Sometimes it is a little bit easier to start from pit road, kind of avoid all of that turn 1 chaos that you heard Ozzy talking about. And nice, cool, calm temperature, 73-degree ambient air temperature, 77 degrees on the track. It's a nice evening to go racing here in Tennessee, Ozzy.
It is, and remember, those familiar with oval racing, we haven't got yellow flags out here today. That means, well, we got local yellows, but we got road course style yellows, so no pace car aside from this rolling start. And if there's a wreck on the track, well, drivers just gonna have to avoid it in the old-fashioned way.
As we go down the back straightaway for the second of the 2 pace laps here, that pink number 2, as well as that white and red number 5 on the outside, they are going to set the pace. We're going to see if it's going to be the high line or the low line that's going to prevail here at Bristol as Barney waves the green flag. We are racing under the lights at the last great Coliseum, and up front, it's the high line. Shinsuke Tashima trying to power around the outside, but actually gets into the wall coming up off of 2. Jonathan Jourdain in that pink number 2 leads the first lap.
Oh, it's a big one already in lap number 1. Cold tires and everything else is a mess. But remember, they're gonna keep racing. There's no cautions here. So a lot of drivers out, and maybe we'll see what happened later. But look at that. Jonathan Jourdain in the lead ahead of Tashima Shinsuke, who is very, very good still on the pace despite that wall lick in lap number 1 that we saw.
There is still a wheel sitting out there in the middle of the track. Hopefully Barney is able to get out there and use his ninja-like reflexes and go out there and collect that. But it is all Jonathan Jourdain up front right now, and like you heard, Tashima just right behind. And we've got a group of probably 8 cars all running within about a tenth of a second from each other as we check in on this battle for what is 5th, 6th, 7th back here. Bill Tyler, we got Hashimoto, Javier Mascara, and Kurt Clapper all involved. And yeah, we are running 135 laps, but look at how quick they go around this place, about 14.5 seconds per lap.
Yeah, you know, I'd be projectile vomiting after about 10.
You know, it does get a little bit, you got to get used to it with how quickly you're going around this place. And to let everybody know, you know, through the corners, the slowest I'm seeing is about 115 miles an hour.
Wow.
They scoot up to about 145, maybe 150, depending on how quick they can get that throttle to the floor coming out of the corner exit. But yeah, it's pretty much just like a yo-yo. Wind it up and see how fast you can spin it.
Yeah, I've raced here in, well, on iRacing in a Cup car and in an Xfinity and in a truck, but never in a Lotus 49. And it's, when I saw it on the schedule, I was thinking about it. But today looks to be so busy that I'm glad to be here with you, Joey, in the commentary booth and not making a fool of myself out there on the track, because I think that's what would happen. But look at Teshima Shinsuke. Catching up to Jonathan Jourdain. It's looking to be a great lead battle, and these lapped cars, they are not just speculation.
I think we're going to get a replay of what happened on the opening lap that took out probably a handful of cars here, focused on Jack David Spickett. Let's see exactly what happens. Now, this is kind of running low line versus high line on the opening lap. Oh, Jack just has a huge wiggle going into the corner, and unfortunately he was kind of in the middle of the pack. Everybody else behind was just an innocent bystander.
Yeah, nowhere to go really. Well, the banking is high, but it's also a narrow banking in a way, so you don't have much room, not at those speeds, to try and avoid an incident. Ellie Spice here looking to get himself up a position and does so. Olsson now dropping down to 12th place, so good pass for Ellie Spice, and good job as well. 7th highest oval iRating here. Remember that the numbers you're seeing, those are going to be by oval iRating. So
yeah.
not the traditional road course iRating, but the oval experience. And I wonder which one is actually more useful here, Joey.
I think it's definitely the oval iRating. And to kind of explain what you were talking about, typically this is a road racing series. You know, we don't do the ovals. We have a couple of fun races every so often in the season. Usually it's over there at Monza doing the old track, but they always like to have a little bit of fun with these 49s, and I think putting them on Bristol is really cool. I think even putting them on the dirt here at Bristol might be even cooler. But back to your point, it is based off of the oval iRating system, so usually it's those road course iRating guys that have the number 1, the number 2, the number 3 boards. But here today, Jonathan Jourdain, who's usually typically kind of call it number 10, number 15 in our top strength of field road racing split, he's got the number 2 board. Teshima, who rarely shows up on a week-to-week basis, he's up there with the number 5 board. So Ozzy, to your point, I do think the oval iRating is definitely showing itself.
Yeah, I think so too. You need to have some experience on the ovals. We got a couple of guys up here in Finland who kind of run both road courses and ovals. You know, road iRacing, oval iRacing, and pretty experienced. And you can definitely see that oval experience. Even just a handful of races in oval helps a lot. And you can see here Teshima really close to Jourdain right now. Just not letting him out of sight. And Jonathan Jourdain really have to keep at least one eye in the mirrors, but you know, catching up is one thing, passing is whole other. And I think the Japanese driver is just looking to, you know, play it safe for now. He can see the leader, that guy's not going anywhere, no need to rush a pass with 12 laps to go, 13 laps to go.
Yeah, correct. There's still a long ways to go in this race, and the pass in an oval car or in an oval race, sometimes it's a slow burn. In road racing, we expect somebody to catch them and then immediately pounce on it, right? If there's an opportunity, if there's an open door, you take it immediately. That way you can kind of get on with your race. While here in the oval world, sometimes it takes a half a dozen laps, maybe even more than that. It can take sometimes over 25 laps to even just complete a pass, to work somebody off of the racing line, maybe get the nose in there, move them up high, or even have them start to make a little bit of a mistake.
Yeah, we just got out of it, but Kurt Clapper was able to get past Miguel Salgado. Salgado hitting the wall a little bit, and Clapper making the move. Meanwhile, here is Hashimoto Yoshiharu against Bill Tyler. So one of those names you expect to see on ovals, the other not so much, but they're pretty much in the same picture here, and you can see Hashimoto really putting the pressure on Bill Tyler. And I wonder if Togo Hisada has done some recruiting here in his native country and asked some of his friends from Japan to, hey, look, Lotus 49 Ovals, why not do it?
I think it's really cool. I had made the comment that we have a few of the Japanese drivers in here, and I think that they're actually all within the top 10 right now, between Tashima, Hisada, and also Hashimoto. All within the top 6
Ito
is really what I'm seeing right now. And I'm sorry, yeah, you guys get full Bald Eagle Big Mac over here with my pronunciations, unfortunately. But here is Togo Hisada. Call it kind of the best of the rest right now. We were talking about the difference in the road racing versus the oval iRating. Well, Togo is always one of the fastest week in, week out. And right behind him, he's got Mr. Jorge Nieva, who's kind of in the same boat as Togo. But right now, they're 2 seconds plus behind that leader of Jonathan Jourdain with that number 5 chasing him. So maybe these two getting a little bit humbled today.
Yeah, that gap is 2 seconds, so that's about 1/8 of a football field. So that would be 22 banchos and 2 cheeseburgers.
There we go. Now I can clearly understand the unit of measurement. Thank you so much for that, Ozzy.
You're welcome.
We continue to watch this battle here. This is pretty good for 5th and 6th place. Now, Bill Tyler is in the white car with the blue racing stripe. We got Hashimoto back here in 6th place, right on his tail. And these two cars have a little bit of a gap back to Kirk Clapper, so it really is just between these front two in terms of their battle for what is trying to get inside the top 5. And I mentioned it's a slow burn sometimes. These cars don't have to deal with the dirty air being kicked off from somebody in front of them, but oftentimes, as you see here at Bristol, it can be a one-line racetrack in terms of the speed that's available.
Yeah, high line, well, there's a bit more banking on the high line, and people like to run the high line here. Some like to run the lower, shorter line, which gives you a bit shorter way on the entry, but sacrifices your exit speed. But then again, it's a short straight, so it's a matter of preference. But you can see here, people are pretty much taking the middle line, I guess, here. Tolman now cutting a little more to the inside. Maybe if, Conor wants to make a move, it would be good to run the high line for a couple of laps just to see what happens. But I think they're all also a little bit afraid of that wall on the outside, not wanting to get too close to it. A lot of people have slapped the wall already. There's been slight wall hits, and these cars, they don't have bumpers. First thing that's gonna hit the wall is gonna be your tire, and that's not rigid at all. You can easily break the suspension on these cars. You can easily cause yourself damage and really hinder your race if you smack that wall, even if it's a safer barrier as opposed to an Armco or a concrete barrier. Used to be a concrete barrier, now it's safer all the way around, which is a good thing.
As we watch just kind of the race start to develop out here, I see Ellis Spice moving up into 9th place, taking that position away from Javier Mascara. And actually, Connor Tolman is now the one to the inside here. Connor started a couple positions up inside the top 10, and really this season, I think he's been a little bit of a story, a little bit of a talking point. One of the newer faces here at Lotus 49, had a great podium run at the Nürburgring a few weeks back, and then had a couple of tough races. But I think overall, week to week, he's starting to kind of make himself known within this community. They're starting to recognize who this Connor Tolman guy really is, and starting to earn a little bit of respect out there. Constantly running inside the top 10, as he is right here, kind of battling for what is 10th place position, and always improving himself out there on the racetrack, which is what you want to see out of a driver. I was going to mention here, Ozzy, that our leader, Jonathan Jourdain, I was looking through the stats as it looks like maybe a move on Bill Tyler. Not quite this time. Bill does a nice job carrying the momentum around the middle of the track, but our leader has yet to win one of these Grand Prix Legends Series races. So Jonathan Jourdain never found the top step, and same with our 2nd place runner. He has never won a race here in the broadcast stuff either. So if either of these two drivers can find victory lane here today, that would be a new winner in this series.
Yeah, and Hisada Togo and Jorge Nieva, well, those guys have won races, multiple, I believe. So at least Hisada, former champion of this series, of course. So yeah, they might be looking to spoil the party, but honestly, that gap is getting wider and wider. You can see Jonathan Jordan, you can see Deshima behind him as well. They're just pulling out from the guys behind. The gap is now 3.5 seconds, and they're catching up to that Tolman battle that we talked about earlier, Mosquera and Tolman. And Tolman, yeah, been very, very much improving recently in this series, getting past the Duracell machine, up in the top 10 potentially here, but they're gonna have leaders to worry about here, so that's something they're gonna have to watch out for, and the leaders as well.
And here they are, speaking of, so pink number 2 going to go to the bottom side of the racetrack, and you see our second place car. He is right on the back here. He is just looking for any sort of opportunity that he can find, that maybe if Jonathan Jordan slips up off of the racing line, that he'll be able to get down to the bottom of the racetrack. Now, I was going to make a note of something that I've seen here. Now, typically at Bristol, oh, there's a big stack up. I believe that's Gary Ho in the wall. And our second place car was really pushing the issue, trying to find a way around with the momentum maybe on the middle side of the track, as our leader is really choked up down low. Does that white-red number 5 car maybe potentially think about making it 3 wide? He's got an excellent run off of turn number 2 there. But once again, just nowhere to really go with it. And now they finally clear that number 4 car of Javier Mosquera, and the race is kind of back to normal.
Yeah, and Tolman's still battling him. Like, there was a lapped car situation, chaotic situation, and they're somehow still side by side behind the 2 leaders. So, yeah, a great battle going on there. I was about to mention earlier how Tolman really, at this rate, he's turning into Benetton, the way he's improving.
This is that GSRC replay now. Oh, so unfortunate for Gary Ho. We can see there is no contact there. No contact between the 2 cars, but sometimes those internet connections here in iRacing, they say otherwise. It's known as net code, ghost contact, and unfortunately, that purple car with the purple helmet was a victim that time.
Interesting sponsor in that car of Gary Ho. I couldn't help but notice it, because it's a Swedish coffee brand called Löfbergs. And I know that because when I drink filtered coffee, it's usually my go-to choice. And this is not an advertisement. They don't help us in any way. You can help us by sending free coffee, of course. I drink all the coffee I can get my hands on. But yeah, we're very, very interested to see that. And speaking of liveries, we just love seeing these. Either old-school authentic racing liveries or knockoffs of authentic racing liveries, kind of like a fantasy world of what could have been. Here, John Olsson, for example, looking at the inside of Tolman.
So this is kind of the racing line that I was expecting to see a little bit more, and there we go. See, now John Olsson's entering high, but then really late apexing to try to get the drive off. And I know that these are not oval cars, right? They're not from the NASCAR ladder. They are not sprint cars. Right, I know that we race sprint cars here in America, which are open wheel, rear engine, but these are drastically different. But typically here at Bristol, the middle and high groove is plenty fast. And what I've seen is plenty of defense come from the middle lane and the high lane. I'm really surprised that we haven't seen more drivers kind of migrate up there just to start doing laps on the high lane.
Yeah, I guess you're right. And I think that's something people are not really accustomed to. In a way, when you road racing, you want to take the shortest route, and you're also you don't want to experiment too much. And I wonder if that's also because of the nature of this car. So it's easy to roll off the throttle. You got long braking distances. You roll off the throttle and sort of turn on the inside, and it turns enough. They don't want to upset the car with sudden movements, and it's not really capable of doing sudden movements either. It's a very light car, and of course the weight balance is very much shifted to the back. You got a mid-engine, but it's really close to the rear tire. So I wonder if it's also that they're maybe afraid of breaking traction. I don't know. But it's something that they definitely, up to the leaders too, they are looking to that inside. They're looking to take the traditional road racing line, I suppose, through these corners as much as they can. As you can see with Yoshihara there, just shadowing Will Pyler. And very, very patient to her, about halfway through the race, and still not forcing a move, still content to stick behind Will Tyler, wait for that mistake, and nobody wants to be the guy to set off that big one. I mean, I guess again, since it happened on lap number 1, but since then it's been remarkably clean.
Knock on wood over here because we did just click over past halfway. So lap number 69 now is what the leaders are doing. Nice. And it's only going to be a couple more seconds before it clicks over to lap number 70. And since we were talking about the low line versus the high line, I agree with you, Ozzy. Typically, road race cars do not handle ovals the way an oval car usually races it. Oval cars are set up to roll the middle and really be patient on everything, while road race cars, yes, they can drive one of these oval tracks and get Steve Maurice into the pits. I think I saw him brush the outside wall, so I think he's in for damage out there. But back to my point is that typically, if the car is not handling well, if you have an understeer or an oversteer, what you want to do is actually migrate up the racetrack. You start from the bottom, you go up to the middle, you'll notice, okay, it's a little bit better, and then you keep going up all the way up to the top side of the racetrack. And what you notice is the further you go up in terms of that driving line, the earlier you actually have to lift off of the gas to get ready for the corner. So what does that do? That allows the car to be settled by the time you actually get it into the middle of the corner. So therefore, if you have an understeer, guess what? You're already making it easier on the beginning half of the corner on the car. If you got an oversteer, well, guess what? You're not turning the wheel as much at the beginning half of the corner. And that's kind of what we're going to be seeing here. Top lane versus the bottom lane and a battle for 10th as we get a replay.
Okay, let's see what happened to Ito Takuma here in the number 6 car. Just, brushing the wall outside of turn 4, and that's gonna be an impact with number 22 as well, who was unable to avoid the struggling car. And you can see Ito there, the car just not turning in at all, very damaged on the right side. And that's what I talked about earlier, that suspension can get damaged easily, and just trying to make it back to the pit lane, honestly. Remember, no cautions there. That would have triggered a caution normally, but no cautions here, so people are just gonna have to look out for local yellows and avoid that slow-moving car. You know, you see a car moving slow, you want to be somewhere else on the racetrack. Another difficult thing in terms of avoiding incidents here, as we're watching John Olsen now, still battling with Tolman. And actually looking to the inside! Oh no! Tolman's up on the side and able to recover, and wonder if they can keep going. Probably not. The car's looking to be in a pretty sorry state. Yeah, as I was about to mention. I can't remember what I was about to mention. You go.
Connor Tolman's front right wheel finally fell off, but between that replay and what we saw on the racetrack, it had actually happened right in front of our leaders at one point. So good job to that pink number 2 as well as the white and red number 5 to get around some of those incidents. But looking over, roughly call it about 55 laps remaining here as our leader is stretched out, call it about 3/4 of a second over Shinsuke here. And I think that this car is plenty close, that if Jonathan Jordan, our leader, has any sort of problems, Shinsuke will definitely be right there to pounce on it. Give you kind of a little bit of the rest of a rundown here. The top 5, Togo Hisada has actually fallen back about 4.5 seconds now off of that battle for what is second place as we watch Ellis Spice battle it out with Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado. I believe that's Marco on the top side there in that number 14, and Ellis is in that number 7 car, the yellow number 7, who finally gets clear of him down to that bottom lane. But we've kind of been watching this battle develop as now Marco looks to the inside, because not only are these two involved in it, but those 2 cars directly behind are also for position. That's Javier Mascara and John Olsen.
Yeah, and question to you, actually. We got Ellie Spice, but looking at the color of the car, is that curry or mustard?
Curry or mustard? I would call it orange.
Well, yeah, that's an option. Is orange a spice?
Okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down now. If we're going that route, I might even go with maybe sort of a dusted paprika.
Yeah, okay, sounds weird, but sure enough. I can see where that's coming from, yeah. Jorge Nieva and Togo Hisada now. Current Ford Nieva trying to catch up as they're passing the car of, I believe, no, that's not Spice, that's the 18 of Dorn. So Van Dorn there in 14th place. One interesting thing I noticed also, if you're looking at top 6, they're the only cars in the lead lap. Mind you, a very, very short lap here. But goes to show you that even a couple of tenths a lap. Oh, Nieva just went to the outside wall. That's a really weird.
I saw that as well. Now, everything is so high-strung here that even if you miss your braking point by 10 feet or something, you'll get sucked into that outside wall. And I went back and actually looked at it. I don't think it had anything to do with it. Now, how you maximize lap time is you open up the arc, the radius of the turn as much as you can. Sometimes drivers get a little bit greedy on the entry. I think that's exactly what happened to Jorge Nieva. He actually touched the outside wall before he even turned in. And Ozzy, you know, in the Sims, sometimes it can kind of pull you towards the wall when that happens.
Yeah, and I've seen that happen in real life as well. I've heard about that same effect, you know. The wall just kind of has a mind of its own, I suppose. It's sucking you in, and when you're doing such high speed and when you're driving a race car close to the wall. So it's a similar effect to a ground effect in a way that there's a low pressure area between the car and the wall, and that's why you see Indy cars as well. When you're racing in Indy 500, that's why they're pulling to the middle of the track on a straight line. Well, that's partially the reason why they're pulling to the middle of the track and race line. So it actually does make it a little bit slower, but also, yeah, just low pressure area plus getting too close to the wall, including results in somebody getting sucked up to the wall. An effect that is definitely heightened here in the sim world. And that's, I think, exactly what happened to Nieva, who is now 1.6 seconds back on Hisada Togo. And I wonder if Hisada is now feeling a little bit lonely up there on the last lap of the podium. Probably not.
I don't think he is. I think that he would certainly like somebody to go out there and race with, because that's how you always improve your craft, right? Is you need somebody to push you that little bit further, and right now Togo is about 5 seconds behind our front two, so I think that he has plenty on his plate to still go out there and learn about the last great Coliseum short track racing here with these Lotus 49s under the lights of Tennessee out here in Bristol. And tell you what, Jonathan Jordan doing a great job, has yet to make any mistakes that I have seen out front. The gap has grown from about 3/4 of a second to about 1 second, and no, that is not a commentator's curse. I'm just commenting about how great of a job he's doing, and after all, he is one of our best oval iRating guys. That's why he's got that number 2 board. I'm actually looking through the orders. Oh, it's Kurt Clapper that's got the number 1 board for the oval iRating here, and actually Kurt is running inside the top 10 as well.
Yeah. And now I'm looking at Tashima's car, and I mentioned something about those liveries earlier on. We've seen Togo Hisada race with that Honda-inspired livery earlier, and Tashima just brushing the wall a little bit, no damage there, just getting very, very close to it. But you can see those his fellow countrymen as well here, having those traditional Japanese racing colors, which is of course a white car with a red stripe or with a red sun in it, a red circle in it. And everybody's doing sort of their own interpretation of it. So it's not only Honda racing cars, but also what Lotus would have looked like, for example, back in the 60s with Japanese racing colors. And here in Tashima we see another example of those. So it's great to see them really going all the way with those liveries, those paint jobs, and really, you know, going into that land of 60s racing when national racing colors were still very much a thing. Sponsorship was in its infancy, and here you can see the Honda of Hisada Togo there, and that means that you still see some traditions like the British racing green and the light blue of France and the silver or white cars of Germany, and also the white and red of Japan.
And look who's crawled back into the picture. Jorge Nieva in that 4th place. that blue and orange number 10. Remember, we were making the comment that he had kind of gotten sucked up into the wall. We'll call it probably 10 or 20 laps ago now with how fast they click him off here, but it's actually hunted back down Togo Hosada. And even more interesting, Jorge Nieva, last lap time, 14:89. That is the fastest car on the racetrack. He's the only car in the 14-second bracket. Now our second place car dips down at a 14:98, but Jorge has yet to be able to find a way around Togo Hosada all race long. He's going to have to do something maybe a little bit different in order to get around him. I've been noticing most of the drivers have migrated down to the low lane. We had talked about the difference between the high lane and the low lane. The only one that I can see that has migrated to do something different that I really like seeing is actually our second place runner, Tashima, up there. And as I say that, he goes straight back down to the bottom. But there was about, call it 10 or 15 laps that he was running the middle to high groove out here at Bristol. And just as I was mentioning earlier, sometimes you have to search for that speed on the racetrack. Otherwise, you're going to do the exact same thing as the car in front of you.
Yeah, and in oval racing especially, we often talk about groove. You would know that, of course, like the racing groove that is developing throughout the race, and iRacing does a great job of simulating that racing groove. So when you're running a single lane like this, that lane gets hotter than the track around it. And that usually means after a certain point there's going to be less grip on that racing line because it gets too hot, that rubber gets hot, and it's just going to get slippery. And then you start to sort of try and start your search for other lanes. For example, okay, the racing groove is getting a bit hot. Am I finding pace in the middle lane? Am I finding pace in the high lane potentially? In these cars, the effect is not so pronounced because of the way these tires are. They're old school cross-ply racing tires, and they're meant to essentially last not only a race but potentially a season as well. So very hard compound. That means they're not really gonna put a lot of rubber down on the track, and they're not gonna, shred bits of rubber off. So there's not gonna be marbles outside the racing line very much either. So it's not that pronounced, and I think a lot of people are just happy to use that banking on the inside and really, get the car slung into the corner. But what a recovery by Jorge Nieva.
I'm looking to see if there's any steering damage. I certainly don't see any, especially from this view. Now, I was talking about understeer and oversteer. We're under 20 laps to go, so this is going to have to be pretty quick. But you see how Jorge, he was always just a little bit of countersteer coming off of the corner as he's really trying to struggle to put the power down. Now, if he actually moved up a lane into the middle of the racetrack or even up to the top lane, what that is going to do is off of the back end of the corner, it's actually not turning the steering wheel nearly as much, so you don't have to have all the steering wheel cranked into it. It should help that loose off of the corner. So kind of to what Ozzy was talking about, the different grooves in the racetrack, and as the racetrack develops throughout the night, sometimes you just kind of have to move around, and might not even be the racetrack. Sometimes it's just the race car and you having to drive it and approach things a little bit differently in order to get that, or I should say extract that last little bit of speed out of the car. As Togo Hosada definitely starts to run it down underneath the 12 car. One of the lapped cars might provide an opportunity for Jorge Nieva. Don't worry, folks, up front nothing is changing. Jonathan Jordan still about 1.2 seconds in front of Shinsuke there in second. What we are watching is the battle for the last step on the podium.
Yeah, and moving quickly to fifth place, Bill Tyler versus Hashimoto Yoshiharu there for fifth and sixth. And really great job by Yoshiharu there, just looking up to the inside, not quite able to pull it off from Bill Tyler, but that's really the one of the first attacks we've seen on this battle now, following through for well over 120 laps, and now finally looking to make that move, getting better exits constantly. But the straight is so short that even with the draft that these cars provide, you get a great draft, you get a great launch, but it's such a short straight that when the guy's holding on to the inside, it's very difficult to overtake unless, once again, we're going to mention it, you take to the high line, but that potentially comes with its own difficulties and new adjustments that you're really going to have to make in a hurry. So Yoshiharu, they are just hoping that Bill Tyler maybe makes a mistake, or maybe he gets some help from those lap cars up ahead.
Under 10 laps to go. When I said that it might be a slow burn to get the pass done, I didn't think it was going to be about 120 laps that Yoshiharu was going to have to try to work over Bill Tyler out here. But that just kind of goes to show you how hard-nosed all of these competitors are. They limit their mistakes on the racetrack. So yeah, if you want a pass, if you want a position out here, you're going to have to learn to do it the hard way. And here comes an excellent run from Nieva. He doesn't have that straightaway in order to really get the car down to the inside of the racetrack on Togo Asada. Probably loses maybe 1 or 2 car lengths total in that battle, but we're going to click it over to 5 laps to go here, Ozzy.
Yep, and Hisada just gonna have to lock down the inside now. He knows that Nieva is very, very fast in his mirrors. He was able to climb back up after that mistake, hitting the outside wall, remember, with about 40 laps to go, and then, you know, lapping faster, not only faster than Hisada, faster than everybody out there on the racetrack, and then getting that 1.5 second gap caught up, but then you're gonna have to, well, catching up is one thing, passing is whole other, and with 4 laps to go, time is running awfully short.
3 laps to go here, and trust me, it is going to end a lot quicker than what we think. I've got my eye on the leader. I'll let you know what's happening up front here. 2 laps remaining this time. Jonathan Jourdain only has about 3/4 of a mile left here at Bristol. He's going to see the white flag from Barney this time. He's got a couple of lap cars directly in front of him, but with a 1.5 second lead back to second place, I think he's probably just going to hang out right here, take the high line, round 3 and 4. He sees the checkered flag, a new winner for the Lotus 49s, Jonathan Jourdain.
Grand Prix legend, seeing a new legend born, and here, oh, look at that! Hisada has to slow down in the last corner, but not quite able to catch Nieva. Same thing with Yoshiharu. Hashimoto Yoshiharu really just putting the pressure on Bill Tyler, but Bill was too tough of a nut to crack.
What we're going to do is get our results on the screen here. It was the first time winner, that pink number 2 car of Jonathan Jourdain. It's actually his 2nd podium overall as well. So just an absolute fantastic race. Started on pole, led every single lap. Just a great race up there. Shinsuke Tashima finishing 2nd to his, I believe, 3rd overall podium here in the Grand Prix Legend Series. Togo Asada finishes 3rd. He's got more than I can count right now. Jorge Nieva did have a nice comeback to finish in 4th after brushing the wall. Bill Tyler finishing 5th, holding off Yoshiharu Hashimoto the entire race. Kirk Clapper finishing 7th, Ellis Spice in 8th, Javier Mascara 9th, and Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado rounding out your top 10.
Yep, and on to the next place, next page even, we got John Olson in 11th and Robert Plumley in 12th. Michael Flaherty in 13th, John Van Dorn 14th, then you got Ito Takuma and Steve Morris, and list of retirements there from here on out. Names like David Rossi and Connor Tolman, Gary Ho, Chance Steven as well. Lots of cars caught up, unfortunately, in that lap 1 incident, like Shady Ahmad, Paul Rivette, Tobias Hernby, Jack David Spickett kicking it all off, Maxime Le Breton, Matthew Maudsley, and Roberto Pangrassi as well. So that was very unfortunate for those drivers. And really, a question for you, Joey. Just a quick one. We're racing on an oval, and they do victory lanes here. So do we, when we have a road series on oval, do we actually do a podium or just a victory lane?
Yeah, so typically in North America with NASCAR, there's not a podium. It's just victory lane over there. So yeah, it's a little bit of an oddity, but hey, you know, bring over some step ladders. They'll be off to the side. But hey, it looks like we've got our highlight package ready to go from 100 and... A pretty big wreck off of the beginning here. I believe it was Jack David Spickett right there that you saw get loose into one of the corners, and then the big one ensued.
Yeah, that was very hairy indeed, and you can see here just lots of cars spinning, tumbling all over the racetrack. Thankfully, nobody ending up on their lead. Some nice overtaking action as well. A multi-groove action, overtaking action, just a little bit wiggling loose. Good three-way battle there for position. You can see positions changing once again. Not happy to lose that one over. Another wiggle down to the inside as drivers got adjusted to the racing groove. Very triple liveries, I must say. Authentic in that 60s fashion. I'm looking forward to seeing an Austin Powers livery one of these days. That'd be cool.
You know, we didn't have any cars stuck on pit lane though, so maybe the Taylor Dunn livery will have to come out some other time. But this was that battle between Tolman and Javier Mascara. Ellis Spice was all involved in it. This was one of our more intense mid-pack battles throughout the middle of the race, and there you see our two leaders still coming up behind this side-by-side stuff. So this was really just kind of right smack in the middle of the race, and you gotta wonder if you're the leader of Jonathan Jourdain and you approach this, you see how busy it got, especially with our second place car of Tashima. Shinsuke there getting caught up behind the lap traffic, and more of just this great racing that happened at Bristol. I will say that, there was a little bit of contact. I believe that might have been Bill Tyler in the white and blue number 9 car. That was the number 6 car as well, just having that little bit of contact. That was that, you had called that one out, Ozzy. That was the Takuma Ito incident a little bit earlier.
Yeah, and ending up in a contact as well. That was so unfortunate. Just a car not turning anywhere, another running into the back, and it's so difficult to avoid here. Those little contacts, and once you lose that steering, there's not much you can do. You can either crawl along at snail's pace, and that's another one. And I believe that was the Tolman incident, ending up on the outside wall and out of the race as well. And some 3-wide action heading into turn number 1, because sure, why not? 3 wide in a Lotus 49 at Bristol. I mean, why not?
That was still that Mascara Spice clapper. It was just an action-packed race, and then it finally ended with Jonathan Jourdain in victory lane. And it actually looks like we've got Jonathan, who's going to be joining us here for an interview in just a moment. And now we've got him. Jonathan, congratulations, your first win in the Grand Prix Legend Series.
Thank you.
How does it feel? You've been on the podium once before, but I mean, you dominated today. Pole position, leading all the laps, and you didn't even let anybody have a sniff of that lead.
It was hard work to get to this point. Practiced quite a bit, turning laps around this track, trying to pick up pace, and we got to the, seeing on Garage 61, I get times that I could be going up against. It seemed like I had a pretty fast time. I got pretty nervous for the qualifying session, but we got the pole there. And then the race, that was a lot of fun. Trying to battle with Shinsuke Tsushima for a lot of it.
Now, we see you every single week here in these 49s, but I had no idea the oval prowess that you had. Is this something that you enjoy doing, or is this just kind of more a one-off that you put in a lot of practice for?
I like a lot of the oval racing. I do a lot of that, so I have a little bit more practice on that going into these tracks compared to the road courses.
Well, it was awesome to see you up front. It's great to claim yet another new winner here in the Grand Prix Legends Series. While we have you here, is there anybody you want to give a shout out to?
I just want to thank the community for being tolerant or supportive of ovals in the series.
That is perfect. I am all for that. I am all for the ovals in the Lotus 49s. Congratulations on your first win.
Thank you.
Well, that was the driver, our winner of the pink number 2. I believe that Ozzy has gone ahead and caught up with our third place finisher.
Yes, we have Hisada Togo here. Welcome, Togo-san, and congratulations for the podium.
Thank you.
So, first talking point, you weren't the only Japanese driver out here. Have you gone and sort of talked to your friends, your fellow drivers in Japan, and tell them, look, this Lotus 49 is fun. Why don't you race it? Come race it.
Yeah, just at first, this, Japanese iRacing community is very, very small, So we have know each others. And the Shunsuke, Ito, and the Hashimoto-san, the three of Japanese are usually doing the oval side racing, So the oval specialist, especially the Shunsuke is usually driving the Super Late Model Series or modified, the short track oval, and the that sprint car series, Yeah, these specialists, so that and they are looking make this combination is very interesting to these guys, so that and I actually Shunsuke-san shared me a setup for the race and the qualify, so that today's race is just all about the Shunsuke's setup, so that really thank you to Shunsuke. Yeah, it's very like a rocket ship and a very fast car.
So that's great to hear. I didn't frankly know. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised because short track oval racing is popular not only in America and Australia, but really around the world thanks to iRacing. So it's not much of a surprise that there would be a small community in Japan racing these as well. So how about you? You were racing with Jorge Nieva for most of the race, and then he made a mistake, and then he came back very quick. Did you worry that you were going to lose that podium potentially?
Yeah, I'm I'm full of sweat in last 10 laps. He's very fast. I didn't make the big mistake, just stay in the low 15 second lap or 14.9 second lap. It's my 100%, 110% pace. But he's, come closer and closer. So just great point is Jorge, I think he's usually not racing in ovals. So passing stuff, passing away, how to pass the front guy, just a little bit, he's a little bit, unexperienced, so that just I can manage the position, but it's very, very hard to keep the third place.
Well, you still managed to do that, and it was a great performance from you under pressure. So next week we're flying back to Europe and Zandvoort. How are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, it's just the old Zandvoort stuff. It's just very one of my favorite tracks. So I never tried in the latest banquet last corner version Zandvoort, but I'm really looking forward to race it. So just practice. Yep.
And you got 135 laps of practice in bank turns this week, I guess. So, congratulations, Togo. And if there's anything you would like to say, then feel free to do so.
Yeah, at first, just massive thank you to the Shunsuke-san for the setup and how to run this track. So that's very thank you, and the Lotus 49 community as usual. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Togo.
Thank you.
So that was Hisada Togo, and over to you, Joey.
Yeah, I think that's going to do it for all of the interviews here and our race today from Bristol. Thanks to the team today, Daniel, Ozzy, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media website and merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. As you just heard Ozzy say, the next race for the 49s is going to be from Zandvoort next Saturday, July 27th, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. That is 1 week from today. Be sure to check out all of our other broadcasts listed here. Up next on the channel, just in a few hours at 1 p.m. Eastern, is going to be IMSA Vintage at Long Beach. That is always an exciting one. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.